Trading Market Technicals morning call video for Monday, August 26th. Hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. This week we do have end of the month, and of course coming to an end is the summer. Labor Day weekend will be next Monday, and just keep that in mind. I do expect probably sideways to a slow grind higher to the upside. That's usually what happens when you get into the end of the summer. Volume really gets thin. So just keep that in mind, guys. Use caution. I wouldn't be really so actively trading. There are going to be some pockets of support, and there are going to be some pockets of areas where you can really get dialed down into a trade. But other than that, be selective in your trading this week. You don't want to get caught on the wrong side, especially if you're trying to short the market. I think it's going to be a little more difficult, usually because we have low volume, and when there's low volume and no one really around to participate and push stocks one way or the other, the markets generally just grind higher. So just, again, keep that in mind, okay? All right, so what did we have on Friday? We did get a bounce. We were looking for a bounce. We did get it a couple days. Dow Jones was up 46, Nasdaq up 19, S&P up 6.5, and Russell up 2. So we did get that move that we were looking for. So what are we expecting? Well, I do see a deeper downside correction. I don't just see. I think we've corrected now about 3 to 4%. I do see a little more push going into seasonal weakness, which would get us right into the end of September, beginning of October. So that usually takes hold. Now, again, it doesn't always have to happen. A couple years back, we had September really being strong months, so just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's go right into the indicators and some charts. Bullish percent, S&P, we are still on a sell signal from here, so maybe we bounce back into this area here, so that's 1670, 1680 area, and then fail a little bit down to the downside. But this is what I'm looking for to see if internals start to pick up. They did get better. The internals have gotten better, but not enough to really start looking for test of resistance here. I don't think that's going to happen, not yet. I don't think this week's going to happen. I think it's going to be very quiet. And again, you never know. Somebody says something, and then sure enough, markets really move to the upside. And don't remember one thing. The market moves will be exaggerated, whether it be to the upside or to the downside, because you have lack of market participants. NYMO, -3, plenty of room to run to the upside, and of course, if it does reverse, we have plenty of room. So we're basically neutral in the McClellan oscillator. Take a look at the NASI weekly. That is still on a sell signal, as you can see here. So this indicator still has plenty of room to run. Remember, this is a weekly chart now, so this could get down a little bit more before we get a crossover to the upside. Okay, the new lows. We had that one spike up. Remember I mentioned it at 2.5 here. That gave us a buy signal in the market, and then we're back below the 25. So again, as long as it's within this area, markets can continue to rally here. You get a little more nervous when you start breaking to 150 to 200, and then once you get above 200, that's when you get some real fear coming in, some real selling. Speaking of fear, let's take a look at the VIX. Perfect. We said, look, we get a blow off top here in the VIX like this, close outside the band. We should get when we close back inside the Bollinger Bands, that's a buy signal for equity. Sure enough, we did get that. Friday, we rallied again, and the VIX now is back inside its band. So the VIX would have to sell off a little bit more. It's going to have a little bit long way to go here before the market actually we start to see some extremes here in the VIX, where we might get a bounce in the VIX, again, a sell-off in equity. So right now that's not happening. So I do think that while the VIX is here in 14-ish to 13.5 area, plenty of move to run to the downside, which would push equities higher. Okay, the CBOE, that's the CBOE options put call ratio. We are still in neutral territory, as you can see here. So we don't have any fear. We don't have anybody buying puts, and that's fine. But we're going to keep an eye on this, because a breakout to the upside, that means fear is starting to creep in, and the VIX should be spiking when that does happen. Okay, let's take a look at the dollar. Now, interesting. I put a little note out over the weekend on the dollar, and the dollar here is really in a, I'd say, in a critical juncture. I do see the dollar rallying going into the fourth quarter, and if it's holding this area here, that's going to be healthy. It's going to need to hold these two areas, 80.50 and 81.50. So you got within a point here, but really needs to take out 82.50 right here. This pivotal high needs to be taken out before we can really rally here. Now, when you have markets move in and you have risk on, the dollar is going to actually, right now at this time, because it's inversely correlated, and that relationship does change. Remember that. So the dollar will succumb to some pressure here, and that's where we get gold coming in. And let me just show you some gold. Let's take a look at the gold monthly chart, though. The gold monthly chart right now produced a bear market for gold, and that's the monthly. Now, even though we are curling up, we have a long way to go before this does get back on a buy signal. I don't think that's going to happen, at least not yet. But if you can see here, we've been in a bull market since 2001, and that's a great movement, and the 8 and 21 did tell you that on a monthly chart. Now, you dial down to the weekly chart, we're coming into our sell zone area. Now, that does not mean that we are going to sell gold if it does reach above 416. We just want to see how price reacts to that area, and if it does reverse, then we would put on a shorts trade, of course, marking the high of that area, and then that would be your stop. But right now, looking much better, maybe a little pop. Copper's doing really well, palladium, a lot of the metals are doing well, so that's telling me that there's a little further upside here. There's a little strength into the metal itself, precious metal, so you have to be a little cautious. I'm not looking to sell into strength at the moment. I do want to get this rip over. Once the rip is done, then I would look to sell gold again for a test of it back into these areas here. Here's the daily chart. Let me show you the daily chart of gold. That's the daily chart. So 416 is going to come into play here. We're at 1396, and then this is the area I'm going to be looking for any kind of price action. Now, look at the volume bars here, the profiles. If the volume breaks above the 416, then you're going to have, I think that then this rally would be for real, and then we would probably test back up into the 1460 area right here. This 50% retracement, 1490. But that's, again, we'll take it one step at a time. But I like gold right now short into this area here. But again, we need a trigger first, okay? Now let's take a look at the USO. Now, the bullish percent ENER is still on a sell signal, all right, and it's at 72. I would like to see this dip a little bit lower, although that we are in this sideways consolidation. I'll show that to you in WTI. Same thing with the USO. This is very bullish. Remember, we're consolidating the upper end of the range. We have a sideways channel here. A breakout of this would lead to further upside in crude and USO. And then you have to reevaluate, too, what's going on, because that's going to take an impact in the transportation sector, which, if that rolls over, could put some pressure on equities as well. So that's a little bit of a bigger picture. But again, guys, keep that in mind, just in case, to see where this may be headed. But I do like USO here. But right now, to me, I'd like to see a test here or break down a little bit more before we get before we break out higher. Now, if we do get a buy signal here, it's a little bit extended, but again, you can take that trade knowing where your stops would be. All right, take a look at the XLF. Now, this is the XLF. This is the S&P bullish percent index of the financials. Here's the XLF. Now, watch the banks. I do like the banks here. I like to pick up a good, strong bank stock, JP Morgan. I'm watching Goldman this morning. If we can get a crossover here, and this is a good area. It's not a bad area for it. There's plenty of room here to run to the upside, so you got a decent amount of room. And remember, the high's at 20.75, so you got 75 cents in the XLF here. But if you look at the individual bank stocks, some of them look really, really good. That Goldman had a nice deep pullback, so that Goldman Sachs is something I'll be looking for, and JP Morgan as well. Let's go into this chart segment. This is just what I wanted to show you. This is the the Spider 5-minute. It's a lot of nothing here. As you can see, we're in this little channel, and all we did was we dipped lower, we popped up, and we just grinded all day, and then we pushed into the close for some short covering here. So this is really, I think, what's going to happen pretty much most of the week. Again, obviously, if there's something, somebody says something or something happens overseas, but if nothing happens, expect some sideways move to a grind higher this week. Here's the S&P cash. We're above the 50-day moving average, which is nice. More than likely, I think this back test, this uptrend line from November 2012 lows. Here is the S&P 60-minute chart. We did get that S2 at 1637. So now we're just going to grind higher here, maybe chop around here, pull back a little bit, make a higher low from this previous low, and then move up again to this area. Again, guys, I think this week's going to be a little quiet, so just keep that in mind. Okay, we hit the 50% retracement in the spiders, and again, I think the movement back up to the 20-day moving average, I don't see it really testing the highs, at least not this week. So I think it's going to be a little subdued. So again, keep that in mind and make sure you get that in within your trading plan. Now, the Bollinger Bands and the 30-minute spiders are starting to pinch here. So we could get at least a move to the upside, maybe capping at 167.25 in the spiders. So this is something really to consider, or maybe get a gap fill up in here to R3. And this is that area that I'm looking for probably this week to fill the gap. I am looking for a little bit more of an upside retracement before we actually continue its move lower. Here's the diamonds, as you can see here. Finally got a little bit of a pullback. Diamonds were very, very weak, and this is something here that at least would test this 2012 lows. So the diamonds, I'm really looking at more the transports and the Russell. And the transports had an inside day from the previous day, but that's okay. It had a big move up. We're above the 20 now. We're above the 50, and of course we're above the 200-day moving average, and back above the November 2012 lows. So this is bullish here. So this tells me there should be further upside in this retracement rally. Same thing with the IWMs. The Russell here is going to come into some resistance now. So this is the hurdle that it's going to need to overcome is 103.28, and obviously 105.68. That would be the high. At least come back and try to test the highs. If the Russell starts to gain momentum along the transports, then I think you're going to have that continued rally that we're looking for. Here's the semiconductor. Still on that head and shoulders pattern, which triggered. Again, back testing this pattern. See where it stops and start to reverse. If it takes out that previous day's low, you can literally now look to enter short with a little more confirmation that this is now indeed headed lower, at least to the 2012 lows, which would be right up in here. Okay? And here is the Goldman Sachs, which I was telling you about that bounce. 61.8% retracement came in at 157.23. And again, guys, now we're still below it, and it's still weak. So remember, this is a counter trend trade. But if the market really starts to pick up a little bit of momentum, maybe Goldman, or if this is a little too weak for you, watch J.P. Morgan or some of the bigger bank stocks in that XLF ETF. Here is the XLF itself. Again, clinging to the 50-day moving average. Going to need to really break it back above it, which would be better. And then look for, again, this horizontal resistance area here, which had a tough time, which actually was holding pretty much all of July and August. And then that's going to act as some heavy resistance. But you got a little bit of movement to the upside to take a counter trend trade. Now, Apple here looks okay. Still looks pretty good. We have, as you can see here, we have this bull flag, we have the bull flag, and now we have the bull flag again. So I'm looking for, and this is what I would be looking for here, 497 hold, it would be Thursday's low, and or breach of the 504 area, which is this line right here. If we take out 504, look to test the highs at 518, anywhere from 515 to 518, right up in this area here. That's going to be my target, and then I would reevaluate it. If it takes out Thursday's low of 497, you're going to come into this cluster here, this little area of support, which would be the 484 to 487. And then, of course, we would reevaluate that. But if it takes out Thursday's low, I think you're going to get a deeper downside correction, which would be into this area here, this little pocket area of support, that little rectangle area here. So keep an eye on Apple, see what that does for this week. And again, lastly is the Qs. Had a good day, followed up. Some big cap tech did well on Friday. So interesting market. So we need to really be on our toes this week. I wouldn't get too aggressive in your trading because it is going to be quiet. Get through the week with some gains and call it a day. Friday and Monday there will be obviously no morning call video. Monday is Labor Day, and Friday I'm just gonna take the day off and just enjoy with family and friends because it's going to be really, really quiet, I would imagine. I'll put a reminder on in the email as well. All right, guys, have a great day. Have a great week. Remember, keep your stops in place and take it easy on the trading this week. I don't suspect too much movement in the markets. Again, remember, that can change, but we'll just take it one step at a time. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.